everybody. So you all sent in a bunch of questions in my question box, and these are actually the type of questions I get all the time. So what I did for today's live, and it's actually a lot of questions, so I'm going to break it into two parts probably. I organized the questions by category, and now I'm going to go through those questions. There were a couple outliers which I answered on story slides, and so I'll be sharing those as well. Welcome to the live, and if you don't mind putting the little heart emoji or clicking the heart button, react, because that shows more people on Instagram that we're here live. So we're going to be covering today mostly solids, readiness, and basics. We're going to be covering allergies and sensitivities. We're going to be covering digestive issues, eczema. And like I said, I'm probably going to cut this into two lives because I can be with you all tomorrow too, no problem. And there's a lot of questions, but there's also a lot of overlap. So that overlap is easy to cover, but I probably have, the question boxes get crazy. I get like hundreds of questions in there, but I'm pretty happy about how this all came together. So without further ado, let's get started. How to gauge solids readiness. So this one is, for me, I have a general guideline for people, which is 6 months when breastfed, 4 months when formula fed. The reason why we start earlier with formula fed babies is because they've already had non-breast milk food, and so we can use the introduction of solids to help get them off the formula faster and to work them up with a lot of nutrient density. Now, my general recommendation for 6 months old babies starting solids has to do with the iron stores and baby dropping, but also just my own personal experience where my kids were literally jumping off my lap into the plate when they're 5.5 months old. So I started my kids a little bit pre 6 months, and that was just the main sign of readiness that they showed me, was grabbing food, crying for food, really, really wanting to eat food. There are a couple other signs of readiness. One sign of readiness that I usually talk about for parents to not start solids with is the tongue thrust movement. So if they're still breastfed and doing the tongue thrust movement, I don't tend to start solids for a little bit later. And then of course I have tons of moms who come to me and they're like, my baby's just not really interested. And it's really good to follow those cues, but also my method that I teach for starting solids is so gentle. So we're just like building them up really slowly with a little bit of nutritious liquids. And then there's the flip side of that where babies are like starving and needing to eat more, and moms are saying, hey, can I feed my baby more than what the plan says? Yes, you can. Go up in quantity always. And, just a general note, the reason why I caution moms to go slow when starting solids is because we want to be able to see and understand what caused the reaction. And it's such a new transition for children, babies, and we want to just give them a really easy path into it. I just don't rush with food diversity. I don't rush with textures. I just let babies ease into eating and starting solids. And so while it varies widely, and I have a lesson on this inside the First Foods course. So like if you're, baby's 3 months or 4 months and you're not there yet, but you want to start learning about it and absorbing this information, now's a great time to buy, because the course is on sale for $100 off through Labor Day. And we're going to have a Q&A with me next Friday, which is exciting. September 5th. Okay, next question. When do I suggest introducing top allergens? So in the First Foods plan, you're going to introduce meats, eggs, dairy, fish, shellfish, but I don't focus on any of the allergens that aren't very nutrient dense because babies don't need them. Now, it doesn't mean you can't introduce peanuts or nuts before 1, but my focus is on building your baby's resilience and their gut microbiome and their immune system. So if you want to check out my last couple posts, I've gotten into a lot of detail about how I do that, and you can read those posts and understand more of the why. I also go into the why inside the course. But the idea is that most of the babies I'm working with are having digestive issues, they're having eczema, they're having allergies to certain foods, and so we don't want to overwhelm the immune system with a food that is not nutrient dense. We want to build their body with foods that they tolerate really, really well, lower inflammation, and get their gut microbiome super strong so that when you do introduce a food that is a common allergen, it's no problem for them to digest it. So this is actually a huge topic. I could do like a whole class on just this on itself, and I probably will one day. But in the meantime, you can get into the First Foods Plan. I have a lesson on the top allergens. I have a lesson on the immune system and how it's connected to your gut health and your baby's gut health, and how to go about introducing foods in a way that keep your reactivity down and still at the same time build this incredibly strong and healthy baby. Because you can have both, right? Like, you don't have to rush. I do not agree with introducing peanuts at 4 months old. Maybe for the mainstream type of introduction, this is like a good idea, but if we look at the mainstream health standards, they're very low, and that's not what we do here. So we are working to build your baby's gut from the inside out, build resilience in their immune system, and you can introduce those allergens at your own pace, and I advise you when to do so within the course. How much diversity of food is vital for a healthy gut is the next question. Oh, and one more thing just on the allergens. The part 2 was, has Augie had all the allergens? Yes, he has. He's had everything. And I didn't do it I didn't give him the food thinking like, oh, and now I'm introducing an allergen. I just built his gut. He didn't have wheat or any grains until 3 years old. And then I gave it to him and he likes it and he did great. And then with peanut butter, that came earlier. That was maybe 18 months, 20 months, something like that. And it was just a random day because we had peanut butter. So yeah, that was it. But I don't think he would recognize peanut butter at the store because it's not one of our human foods. It's not something that we are eating constantly or all the time. And it's a fine food. It's good, right? So how much food diversity is vital for a healthy gut? It varies for microbiomes all over the world, but what I like to teach everybody to focus on is local and seasonal. So you eat the food that's grown with the same light patterns that you are living, and you are going to get the diversity of the land that's around you. And that's the best way to really hunker down, be grounded in the types of foods we're eating, and also really not overthink it, right? Because if it's offered to you, it's likely a food that's really great. Now, I tend to leave out a lot of starchy vegetables from a metabolic standpoint, but I do eat some starchy, carby vegetables sometimes too, as well as grains too. And you in your family can figure out exactly what kind of values that you have around that. But when it comes to healing, there are certain things that I advise for periods of time so that the body's inflammation can be down, and it works really, really well. Is it normal for babies to go through selective eating even when they have a healthy gut? Of course, yeah, of course. People have preferences, and I never make something that is developmental, like choosing for yourself or asserting your agency, which is something very normal that toddlers go through, and wanting certain foods. I never make that permanent because it's not. I always my kids say they don't want something, don't like something, I ignore it. I don't feed into it. I don't play into it. I don't freak out. I don't push food down their throats. I just, okay, and moving on, and I eat it right in front of them, and then I offer it to them in multiple ways and forms, and they are very good eaters and they have diverse diets. Okay, do you agree with giving cow milk after 1 year old? So this is a good question. I give raw milk that I ferment at home. So in terms of a pediatric recommendation of transitioning, no longer breastfed, no longer formula fed onto cow milk, I think if we're talking general American population, we have found that high pasteurized milk, it's not working with what we're doing in general is not working really well. It's not producing vibrant, healthy children. So I'm not in any way anti-milk, but I think that you want to make sure that you're giving your kid plenty of building foods and here we go with that diversity word. Plenty of animal foods that really support their immune system. And my recommendation when it comes to milk would be to give them fermented milk products. Not big bottles of milk, especially if they're not eating other things. Now, it's a different story if you've got a really good eater and their kid's just super balanced with what they eat, and then they enjoy their cup of milk and you don't see any problems from that. But I would try to source the highest quality milk you can get. And I think that if I were answering this from a historical perspective, it would be, yes, children should drink milk, but just regular milk from the store shelves today, not so much. Okay, so of course, once we start solids, the next question that I often get is about food reactions and allergies. So I'm going to switch into talking about allergies and sensitivities. And welcome if you've just arrived. We are going through my question box that I got a couple days ago, and I organized them all into categories. So I'm going to do part 1 and part 2. And my first foods plan is on sale right now for $100 off with a free bonus class with me. Okay, allergies and sensitivities. How much yogurt or kefir to start with after cow milk protein intolerance or cow milk protein allergy? So inside the course, I teach you exactly how to understand this from a gut health perspective, from a digestive perspective. Anytime we're adding in a new food, we want to start slowly. But the cool thing is when you have a properly fermented dairy, that dairy is going to be giving your baby microbes that are likely missing, which cause the allergen in the first place. So homemade dairy with specific strains of microbes can really help your children recover. And as always, we are working on starting really slow and building up. So for example, we wouldn't just be introducing yogurt and kefir after doing no building or healing of the immune or gut, right? Because we're not just shrugging our shoulders and hoping it works and hoping they grew out of their reactivity from before. We're actually working in a way that we are intentionally giving the body foods that help the cells regenerate and heal and nourish the digestive system and support the microbiome, already getting more beneficial microbes in there from brines and different fermented foods, right? And then we're trying the fermented yogurt or kefir. Homemade is best. And those homemade cultures, that homemade product is going to be full of fat-soluble vitamins, which are lovely for the digestive and immune system and the whole brain, the body, everything needs those fat-soluble vitamins. And then it's also going to contain microbes that really change the microbiome and help your baby to digest it better. The other thing about properly prepared dairy is that you want it to essentially be lactose free. So that's why I always caveat the dairy that I feed and I'm talking about by saying 24-hour ferment, because that is a traditional fermentation of the product. And you can buy some on the store shelves that are 24-hour fermented, but most are fermented for 4 to 8 hours, just enough for the yogurt to set, which means the lactose contents are really high. So lactose is milk sugar. Yes, there's lactose in breast milk. It's not the same from a cow. And yes, we can use and utilize sugar. It's not that the sugar is bad, but when we have an overgrowth of pathogens and we're trying to introduce a food that we've been previously reacted to, you need that lactose to be super low. So that's why I recommend, and I keep my kids on kefir and yogurt more than just the whole cow milk, because I want them to get those beneficial microbes. That's really important. All right. Both kids have allergies. Is it me? That is another question that I got. So yes, it is you. It's you, your husband, and your environment. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm blaming you, and we don't need to have mom guilt over this, but our babies inherit our microbiomes, and our babies can even inherit our allergies. So if they don't have the same allergies as you, something else is going on, meaning you've had a degraded microbiome. Most of us do. None of us have the microbiomes of our great-great-grandmother. And if you've been around with me for a while, you've heard me talk about the changes in the microbiome. And essentially what we're doing here in this movement is we are rebuilding our children's microbiome so that they don't only have healthy microbes this generation, but multiple generations down the line. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm healing forwards and backwards generations. And it's amazing because I've been working in my small group. We just finished our summer cohort, and it was so beautiful, the ripple effects of these type of changes within the families, and moms saying to daughters, "You're cooking chicken feet like literally your grandmother used to eat that. That's gross," and she's like, "Yes, I am, and it's the best," right? So we are reclaiming the foods that our grandmother and great grandmother were commonplace for them, right? And we're instating them for our children because our lives depend on it. Our health depends on it. And so when a mom comes to me and she's like, "My kids have allergies, my kids have eczema, they have digestive issues," I go straight to the microbiome. And I think moms and babies heal together, because you going through it in your own body, that's how you get embodied knowing. That's how you really understand this from the inside out. I'm a teacher of this, so I can share it with you. But until you experience it, you're not going to have that inner knowing and that wisdom that is the true message and knowledge that you can then pass on, right? So I teach a lot about this in Mama Baby Biome, which is about to be re-released, which is very, very exciting. But if you are in the starting solids age and your kids have allergies, you can learn a lot in that course, and you can reverse and support your baby who is starting solids to not get any allergens, to not have the allergens go further. And like, I almost named this call the atopic march, because there is that like pipeline that puts people from, they have, you know, eczema to start, then they get allergies, then they get asthma. And I've had a whole lecture on this here before, but basically those things are layered because everything's connected. So when it comes to resolving allergies in mom, yeah, you want to clean up your environment, your microbiome, get stronger, and also you can help your babies, and you guys can do it all simultaneously. And it's actually a gift, because when our babies come with symptoms, that is the cue to like wake up to what needs to change, what needs to be different. It's not the status quo anymore. I gotta like source my food differently. I gotta think about orienting to my kitchen differently. I have to gather around the table and relax and rest and restore. And so we can digest foods that we're meant to, right? And a huge piece of that is restoration of the microbiome, because it has so many jobs for us to in the body, including digesting our foods, you know, assimilating nutrients, supporting the immune system, keeping toxins at bay, etc. All right, babies allergic to egg whites. Common. I always have people start with the yolks, and like there was a ton of egg questions. So eggs, if you come into the first foods plan and your baby does not do eggs right now, or you've had to eliminate those while breastfeeding, you need to just leave them out for now. Because we're trying to bring down inflammation and rebuild tissues. You're going to work on other things. You're going to work on your baby's liver support. You're going to work on your baby's gut health. You're going to work on your own. If you're breastfeeding, you need to also start, you know, mimicking some of the things in the first foods plan. And that is we're going to see symptoms reduce. So we're looking for poops to change. We're looking for sleep to improve. We're looking for mood to change before we start to introduce an allergen. And anytime we go back to introducing an allergen, we want to be like super calm. We want to set it up so like there's nothing new or scary going on. And then of course, if your baby had an anaphylactic reaction previously, then you need to be set up so that you're wherever you need to be, with the tools you need to be, with the people around you that need to support you, so that you feel really confident. For example, some people who have anaphylaxis, when they're ready to retry, they want to do it in the emergency room parking lot, because that's what makes them feel safe. Now, the majority of the cases, that is not them. Majority of the cases that I work with, they are, you know, having skin reactions, having stool reactions, and they just really need microbiome and nervous system support and gut health support to bring down the reactivity in the body. And that is exactly what I teach you in all of my courses. And specifically right now, we're talking about the first foods plan. Baby has eczema, when to give peanut butter. I explained that one in the beginning. It would not be a priority for me at all to give your baby peanut butter until you get that eczema resolved. Eczema resolved, then go ahead and you can introduce peanut butter. Should I cut eggs and dairy with an eczema baby? Okay, good question. And you have to flush out a couple different things here. So cutting out dairy and eggs, how depleted is that going to make you feel? Are you even sure that that is why your baby's reacting? Quality matters. So these are common triggers of eczema, and it's very in the zeitgeist that we need to cut things out. But if you're going to cut those out, you have to replace that protein and fat. So that means eating a lot more meat. A lot of people ask me like, what do I eat? I have to cut out dairy and eggs. You have to eat a lot of meat and rebuild your gut until you can bring those foods back in. That's the best thing that you can do. That's your shortcut. That's the fastest way to do it. And so I'm not like knee jerk, if your baby has eczema, cut eggs and dairy. What I would say is look at quality. Add in meat stock for yourself. If your baby is on solids, then use the first foods plan to help them get there. And if you're still, to help them get their own strength up in their gut, and if you're still nursing exclusively, then you should play around, but not to the extent where you feel extremely depleted, right? And that's kind of just like a personal line that you have to walk. This would be a perfect example of something that I could help you with in our group coaching program, because I could get to know your situation a little bit more. We could talk through what your priorities are, and we could help you to understand, or I could better understand what exactly is going on, the extremeness of the eczema, like how much is it impacting your life, right? Because that's what we have to weigh to figure out these decisions in this time where it's really tender and mom's, everything's new and changing, etc. Okay, so I saw a couple questions come in the chat. I'm going to answer these, and then I'm going to save most of the rest of this for tomorrow. And then I'll post this on my stories, and you guys can get in the course while it's still on sale. So this is a question from Kata. And she says, do you ever eat fast foods or sweet spot at the store? I don't. I never eat fast foods, and I never eat sweet spot at the store because it doesn't make me feel good. But I do make some homemade sweets myself sometimes. And I do make food fast at home too. Okay, there was another question that I saw. My baby's allergic to eggs, and I've been eating eggs. I'm officially done pulling, and I have 3 months stored I'm officially done pumping, and I have 3 months of stored breast milk. My baby's eczema is likely related to the eggs. What would you do in the situation? I wouldn't want to give formula. I would start the baby on homemade formula and solids, meat-based formula, and I would work on their gut health, and I would keep the breast milk in the freezer until I brought some of the inflammation down, and then I'd probably keep giving the breast milk, because I would want to work on the baby's gut health, and you can learn how to do this in the First Foods plan. I would want to work on the baby's gut health and then keep that breast milk, and I would not introduce formula. You didn't tell me how old she is, but whatever age she is, you can keep giving her the breast milk, and for like a period of time until you get organized around like what your plan is for foods, and then start giving her meat stock based formula, and pause the breast milk, see if that helps, and then bring the breast milk back in after a little bit of healing. But save that breast milk, and I agree, don't give formula. I wouldn't do that. And actually, I helped a mom in a similar situation. So she thought her breast milk was causing eczema. The doctors encouraged her to give baby formula. That, of course, made it worse, and the eczema didn't clear. No surprise there. And so then we were like, all right, well, we have this frozen breast milk in the freezer, so let's pause on the formula. She introduced the meat stock formula, which the baby's been thriving on, and then now she's been able to give that frozen breast milk again too, because it really wasn't that much of a problem. Baby just needed a little bit of extra healing. Would I recommend fermenting goat's milk? Yes, I would. I love fermenting goat's milk. What if my baby's 19 months, was told at 12 months, is allergic to cow milk, peanuts, soy, and goat milk? Yeah, so you can work in Mama Baby Biome to put him on a healing gut protocol, and then you need to start with properly fermented dairy. Don't worry about peanuts or soy. That doesn't matter because they're not nutritive. And just, you do want to get up him healing with goat and cow. So like you'll probably start with a little bit of goat ghee after he's done a lot of gut rebuilding and healing, and then you will move up the protocol. Still nursing. Eggs were number 3 versus dairy 8, peanuts 10 on the prick test at the allergist. Yeah, I mean, I have a whole like thing on prick test too. That's invasive for babies, and they're using very low quality foods when they're testing. And so like, I really don't advise these tests or rely on them in my practice at all. I work with foods, I work with healing, I work with the symptoms that are right in front of me. And you probably already knew your baby had allergies before you went to the allergist. So, it just sort of like runs us in circles. But I do recommend, really working on your baby's gut health, because the allergy is a sign that something else is going on. And so we want to get that microbiome balance. We want to get the digestivity of the foods like really tip top, and, nourish. We're going into fall, so it's a perfect time to let go of old and start to bring in new, which nourishes us. Okay, is it very abnormal for a baby to not poop every day, one that's breastfed? It's not very abnormal. It's really common, and, it changes from baby to baby. I would see how Smidge Gentle Probiotics supports your baby with pooping every day. And then, there's so much really detail that I would want to know. But you know, adding in probiotics for mom and baby is a great place to start. Yes, I can't help with an 8-year-old's eczema. You would need to be in Mama Baby Biome for that. And then, so the way that my business works is you have all of the free stuff here, all the information, all the teaching that I do here, and then I have the courses. And the courses go further in depth. They have more instruction. They have long form videos, right? A lot of times people will say to me, oh my gosh, I thought I could piece it all together from Instagram, and then I got in the course and I get it so much more. Exactly, right? Like I can only share so much here in this format, but you work with the courses, you get the foundational information, you learn that, and then you have opportunities to work with my team one-on-one or in a group setting, and that's where we can get more personalized, and we're gonna start that group up soon. So that's how it goes. Do I believe in the dairy ladder for reintro? I don't follow the dairy ladder like by the UK or US pediatrics. I follow a dairy ladder that builds up from easiest to digest to more complex probiotics. So all dairy that I teach and introduce is very specific, high quality, properly prepared dairy. So it's not like mainstream like I've seen like introduce a baked dairy in a biscuit and stuff like that. No, it's not that. Tiffany's asking, do I give baby just meat stock and breast milk for 10 weeks? No, you do not. You build up with all the foods, lots of different foods in 10 weeks. How could I start working on the gut health of a 4-month-old who's not eating food yet and is breastfeeding? You work on the mom's gut health. Does FPIES indicate a gut issue that can be resolved? Reaction to banana only, fine with avocado? Absolutely. If you comment FPIES on any of my reels, you can get my free FPIES masterclass, and there's a lot of cool information in that class. I've helped a lot of babies with FPIES, and it is absolutely related to the gut. Kiki milk, no plant milks, no alt milks, none of that. You don't need that. It's not what's going to help your baby heal or resolve their symptoms. You need simple, basic animal foods. Basically nothing you could buy from the grocery store, you guys. So you have to think like, what would my ancestors be eating and relying on? They would be hunting their food. They would be milking their cow or goat or sheep or whatever, depending on where it was. They would be hunting, fishing, and relying on animal foods. They would ferment. If it was post-agricultural, they would be fermenting their harvest. And so we have in our minds that like, oh, like I can do this substitute now because we have this commercial world where the industry, there's so many different foods, but that's not what heals. What heals is back to basics, things for humans that humans need to have a healthy system. And so I never do alt milks or anything like that because they're often like have gums and they're often pesticides. I just don't, I know the Kiki milk might be like super clean and there's obviously good, better, best and better brands and that kind of thing, but that's not what I teach here. That's not what we do here. We heal using simple, basic foods for as long as it takes, right? And it varies from person to person. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up here. Thanks for those questions in the chat. I'm going to answer this question around red spots around the mouth. What does it mean? So it can depend on what exactly is going on, but anytime skin stuff is coming up, we need to look at the liver, we want to look at the gut health, and we just want to keep on going with the building foods. So like meat stock, for example, another question was like, meat stock flares my baby sometimes and not others. Why does this happen? Well, it could be like histamines in the stock. It could be histamines in your baby's gut, like turnover, so to speak. And don't be freaking out about histamines because we can totally heal a histamine reaction. Histamines are natural, normal responses of the body. They're neurotransmitters. We need them. But if they're in excess, that means that there's too much other things going on and the body can't fully process. And by too much other things, I'm saying like there is dysbiosis in the gut and a backup of the liver that's not allowing you to fully process the histamines. And so once we bring the inflammation down and once we clear all those imbalanced microbes, then you can digest the histamines much, much better. But you have to go very specifically and very slowly. And so inside the First Foods course, because so many parents were coming to me worried about histamines, I added a histamine lesson so that you can better understand the full context of this. Most of what I'm teaching you is, instead of zooming in on that really hyper symptom that you have, we're pulling back and looking at our babies and assessing with our eyes what's going on. We're not panicking. We have to learn to stay calm, because that is your baby's barometer. Your nervous system is your baby. So if you're freaking out and you're up at night thinking about this, or like, you know, freaking out around mealtime and stuff like that, that's not going to allow your baby to relax and to get centered in order to healthily digest their food. So I teach you the things that you need to know about histamines in the course, so that you can be like, oh, I just make a low histamine stock, which, by the way, all you need to do is freeze it at the end and put it in your freezer, right? And you need to not cook it for a long period of time, and you need to just, you don't have to do that forever, because we're not just saying like, oh, my baby has histamines and now he's going to react forever. No, we're going to bring those histamines down. We're going to support his body so that he can digest the foods. So if it's a skin thing, I want to look at liver. I want to look at what types of foods are they eating, and make sure that we're not doing a bunch of histamine liberators. We're bringing down the inflammation in the body, soothing, nourishing, calming, loving, relaxing, and yeah, just generally not freaking out, because freaking out mom is never a good situation for mom or baby. So thanks everybody so much for being here. I'm gonna come for part 2 tomorrow, and the first food sale is gonna end after Labor Day. And on September 5th, if you register, you're going to get a live Q&A with me. So you can get started, you can get learning, you can write all your questions down, and you can have a session with me, with everybody else, where we're asking questions and getting you oriented and squared away. And this was a super big hit the last time that I did it. And yeah, so all in the moment is saying, I still love your approach. It's so refreshing that you believe in the body and nature heal the body. Exactly. That's all you need. You need to trust your body and give your body what it needs to heal, and it will heal. Do I cook 3 meals a day? Daily? Tired of being in the kitchen all the time. I mean, I love the kitchen, but no, I don't cook all of my meals. Like, I just did a huge batch of marinara. My husband cooks. We eat a lot of things that like we cook once and eat on all day, that kind of stuff. Okay. 3, you're asking about histamine overload. He itches a lot, especially during the night. You need the first foods plan. I have exactly what to do with the histamine overload in a 10-month-old baby. I started the GAPS diet for my daughter, and we're stuck with chicken, and it's been 1.5 months. Beef, probiotics, and sardines all cause a flare-up. It's not normal. Everybody takes a different amount of time, but I would go for lamb. If she can't do any probiotics, like fermented food, then you have to back up and go to the food that, like, the smallest amount that she can tolerate. You would be a perfect candidate for the group coaching, because we could help you there. Okay, thanks everybody. So I'm going to post this to my stories. I will see you all tomorrow. I'm going to finish up the rest of the questions. So we're going to go through allergies and sensitivities. We're going to go to eczema, skin symptoms, and flares. We're going to talk about digestive health and elimination, and a couple other broader gut health nutrient questions. Erica, what's the best way to thaw meat stock for a baby if I just want to give him a little bit? Oh, just do a little ice cube, and then like I just stand over the pan and melt it. So the jelly's a little too solid for him. Yeah, spoon feeding's great in the beginning. All right. Okay, thanks everybody, and I will see you soon.